Jai Gurudev. Jai Masters. The entire spiritual path and the entire meaning of life is liberation. That's how it was from the beginning. That's how it will be in the end. That is the entire purpose of creation. If you want to tell it as a story, everybody makes these sagas and stories. Consciousness always existed. It always will exist. It is that which is and always was. There's no why. There's no beginning. There's no end. It just is what is. Consciousness. What is consciousness? Awareness of being. Therefore, it is aware everywhere, at all times, equally, just like you're aware of all parts of your body without having to move or pay attention. They're just there. You're aware of them. So this universe of consciousness, of course there is no universe, there's just consciousness, expressed itself. It wanted to know itself, wanted to feel itself. An artist, a real artist, doesn't care if anybody looks at their work, doesn't sell their work, doesn't need to sell their work, doesn't need judgment. There's just something inside that yearns to express itself. So they could be alone out in the woods, painting, playing music, doing whatever, and it's ecstatic. What is? The expression of your being is ecstatic. You all try to express your beings in lots of different ways. Hugging and all that kind of stuff. Attempt to express what's inside of you. So an artist expresses their being onto form. Why? Because of the ecstasy of releasing, of expressing, and then the ecstasy of consciousness experiencing the experience of what was expressed. You look at your painting, you hear your music. A true musician merges in their music. They're not there. They're not playing for anybody. They've expressed it and absorbed them back, and it's just the absolute best audience of a true musician's music is the musician. That's the only true audience. Everybody else is secondhand. So the divine consciousness expressed itself. All right? How? It just expressed itself. What is very beautiful now, not to take it off of this beautiful spiritual discussion to science, I am blown away by how small the gap is between that ocean of omnipresent, omniscient consciousness and what quantum physics is saying. They're saying, give me energy. Just energy, not form, not a thing. Just energy. And in truth, if you study it very deeply, they say energy is not the beginning. The beginning is where the energy comes from. They say energy is momentum, movement, force moving through time and space. That's energy. That's an energy wave. Well, what medium is the wave in? And they call it the quantum field. If you ask them what is the quantum field, they have no idea. The quantum field is that from which, when it gets agitated, when something drops a leaf into a still lake, there's waves. Those are energy. Well, so something agitates this still quantum field, which they don't know what it is in any way, shape, or form. They just know that when it's agitated, these wavelets happen. And they can build the universe from there. And that is just unbelievable. They can build every single thing that is, everything that ever was, all galaxies, every single thing, your body, every atom, every cell, every single thing. They're there of, give me that wave, and I'll notice that when they hit each other, whatever, and there's no particles, that they seem to throw off these little force things, which we call particles. They're not there. They're just like if you have an ocean. Let's say you have an ocean, the regular ocean, and it's still, and then it starts to have waves. Well, the waves are the ocean. There isn't a single thing that was added, is there? Nothing was added to that ocean. It's just the ocean being agitated. And every once in a while, a spray will flow off of it. But it's just the ocean. When that spray falls back into the ocean, it's the ocean. Well, you can think that I'm not saying it is that, all right? I'm just giving you a way to understand how deep they've gone, that spray is an electron. That spray is a photon. That spray is a supposed particle. And it has certain characteristics. But it's not form. It's just something that emanates off these wavelets. And that's why they say that light is both a particle and a wave at the same time. It has particle qualities and wave qualities because it's just the wave acting like a particle for a moment. And it doesn't even last for a moment. It's just that there are so many of them that it seems like it stayed in the same place because they're coming and going. The point is, I don't want to get into it, right? Although you should understand how deep science has gone. You understand that? They're building these super colliders miles and miles long, and they're aiming almost at the speed of light, protons, at each other. And when they hit each other, they split, and they get like nanoseconds of what did they see when it split, and that's how far down they're going. And that's what they're seeing. And to me, since yogis know what things are, I'll tell you why in a moment, but that field that is emanating this stuff is a field of consciousness. But the point is, look how close it is that yogis say it's all consciousness. It's chit shakti, conscious energy. And now, thousands of years ago they said that. And then now science is saying it's energy, not conscious energy. They're not there yet, and they may never get there. They don't know where the energy came from. Well, yogis do. Why? Let's let the cat out of the bag now. Why? Because yogis did not look outside to find out what's going on. They looked inside to find out what's going on. Well, science would say, well, what purpose is that? Because it's made of consciousness. And the closest thing you're getting to consciousness is you, because you're conscious. The only thing you know that's conscious, actually know that's conscious, is you, because you are conscious. Are you not? Are you in there? Hello? Do you know you're in there? How do you know? Because you're conscious. That exact consciousness is what is part of what created the whole universe. Who's your consciousness? You don't realize that, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Is the purpose of life is self-realization, is the realization of what's going on. But because yogis studied inside and managed to fall back into their consciousness and found that consciousness was one and the same as the ocean of consciousness, period. The wave is the ocean. You just gave it a different name. You called it a wave. You called it spray. It's all the ocean. And so basically that is how close science has come to the truth, which is that what's down there is consciousness, which expressed itself, and all it had to do was create those waves. And then we can build the entire rest of the universe out of that. All the periodic table, every single thing that's going on, all the forces, everything. It's just unbelievable they got that close. That we built instruments that can actually go down to that level. They're almost at God, but they think because of that they don't believe in God. I think it's hilarious. So in any event, that's what's going on. So this is where form came from. The fact that we can build it from there. And when it emanates, let's do it for a second. When it emanates, they call it an apparent particle. It's not a particle. There's no particles. There's just energy and has characteristics of magnetism or of this and that, spin and so on. Well, the lowest particle that they found so far, like people that you were taught in science, electrons, neutrons, and protons make up atoms. We're not taught that. Every one of you were taught that. Fine. What is a proton made of? Well, they say it's the elements, the lowest possible element. Well, now we've broken a proton apart, and we found out that there's quarks, leptons, and bosons, that those are the elemental level that these things are made out of. Right? What are quarks? You don't have to know it, but they pop out of the energy field, and they gave names for the quarks. Up quark, down quark, charm quark, strange quark, and I don't remember the rest. Whatever. There's 6 of them. So basically, if you take 2 up quarks and a down quark, it makes a proton. If you take 2 down quarks and an up quark, it makes a neutron. There. So it's all popping out of this field. Well, what happens if you create a neutron or a proton? The forces pull them together to the nucleus, and then an electron gets attracted to them, and they create an atom. What happens to the atoms? They get to make elements, and the elements make, oh my God, the whole universe is built out of nothing. Isn't that beautiful? Every parent tell the kid, you're getting upset over nothing. You're getting upset over nothing. Aren't you? There's not even there. And you're getting upset about every little tiny little thing. So there, God expressed itself. And here it is. Fine. Well, what good is it if it expressed it if nobody's experiencing it? So therefore it expressed it from underneath, and then it looked down into what it expressed. Just like the artist expressed from inside, and then they looked at what was outside. Same consciousness, below and above. Master used to sing a song, Spirit and Nature Dancing Together. Whoa, did he have that down? So spirit is the descended consciousness experiencing nature which came out of consciousness. And that's all that are into non-duality. And why do I talk about all these different things when really it's non-dual? Because until they merge, what? The two consciousnesses, that which created and that which is looking at the creation, in the core are exactly the same consciousness. And that is enlightenment. So those of you who walk around saying you're enlightened, ha 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 ha, that's really funny. All right? I told you a story once. Yogananda used to teach at Carnegie Hall, all right, with turban on his head, and came over here in the 1920s, and he attracted all these people because he had all this Shakti. And this person asked him once, he always answered very honestly. If somebody asked him a question, he said, you must be very proud when you're standing up there and there's thousands and thousands of people out there in Carnegie Hall, right, in New York, and you're teaching. He looked at him and he said, no, I don't feel any pride. So the man asked, well, what do you feel when you're standing up there teaching like that? He said, well, at the same time that I'm standing there and the lecture is going out, I'm on a higher plane with my guru who passed many years ago, and he's working with highly evolved souls on higher levels, and I'm working with him. And at the same time, my consciousness is merged with all of the universe. It's expanding at the speed of light past all galaxies. All galaxies are my body. All of that's happening simultaneously. That's enlightened. Now, which one of you are enlightened? Okay? You're a very great being. Why? Because you are that also. There's no difference. So now we've painted the battlefield. This is where it came from. You are the consciousness that's seeing it. So what does it mean to evolve? What does it mean, spiritual evolution? Sometimes people write me if I talk about, you're not evolved enough yet, or you need to evolve. They say, but you said I'm God, that the consciousness is perfect. The consciousness is God. Why does it need to evolve? Okay? If I'm sitting in this chair knowing myself as Mickey, and I stare at that picture so much that I become fixated on it, and there's nothing else in my universe. My consciousness is completely absorbed in that picture, the size of his nose and the scales and the grays and so on. Then that's my universe, isn't it? Can you get so fixated on something that you think it's you? You do it every single day with your body. Your consciousness is staring at your body. You do it every single day with your ego, your mind. Your little mind in there talking to you. You think you're it. I don't like what he did. What should I do? That's something you're looking at. You hear it saying that. Just step back one step. You realize, oh, something in there doesn't like him. Not I don't like him. I'm the one who noticed that my mind doesn't like him. I'm the one who noticed that my heart's not open. Do you notice sometimes your heart's open to somebody and sometimes it's not? Do you notice? Who notices that? Because it's the same you who notices that it's open as notices it's closed. There's one consciousness in there. And you are so fixated on the state of your emotions and the state of your mind and the state of your body that you use the word I, not to talk about you, the consciousness that's always there experiencing everything. You talk about what you're looking at and you say, that's I. Hand, foot, body, feelings, thoughts. That's what you mean by I, don't you? I don't like that. Okay? No. I am the one who notices that something in here doesn't like that. Maybe tomorrow he'll like the same person. Maybe if the person says something really nice to me or gives me $1 million, I'll like him immediately. I don't have to wait till tomorrow. Who's in there noticing this? I'm sitting here watching the picture, but I'm staring at it so thoroughly that I become fixated on it. I start identifying with it. Who are you? The picture. I'm that picture over there. No, you're not. Yes, I am. But you're in the chair. There's no chair. You projected your consciousness. Listen to this. This is the essence of spirituality. You projected your consciousness onto the object of consciousness. Can I look outside? Can I see outside? Do I have to go there? No. My consciousness is able to project and see what I'm seeing. If you see it enough, you identify with it. And that's what's happening to you. That's where you are. Okay? So that's not so evolved. I'm not so evolved. I think of my thoughts. I think of my ego. I think of my body. Oh my God. That's hilarious. How do you think of your body? Because I stare at the thing all the time. Every single thought I have, every single emotion I have, and nothing inside of me abstracts itself from what I'm staring at. And therefore, at some point, it identifies with it. You identify with not just your body. You identify with your car. There's 4 cars parked in a row right there. Okay? And people are walking around, messing around with cars. They mess around with 3 of them. You say, oh, people messing around with cars. They mess around with yours? You're a little different? A little different when they start messing around with yours than messing around with the rest of them? Yes or no? Because you identify with your car. You have projected your sense of awareness and sense of self onto the car. You do it with your house. You do it with your clothes. You do it with your kids, for sure. You project your sense of self. You are the self. You're the consciousness. But you're staring at it so strongly that you become hypnotized by it. You become addicted to it, and so on and so forth. And that's the normal state of a human being. Is completely enthralled and addicted and identified with what they're looking at instead of who's looking. You're the one who's looking. My heart hurts. The right question is not what can I do about it. The question is, how do you know your heart hurts? How do you know your heart hurts? I don't know your heart hurts. How do you know your heart hurts? And when you get totally mad at me and frustrated, eventually you yell at me because I'm in here and I feel it. Hooray! I'm in here and I feel it. It is not the subject, it's an object. You are the subject and you're experiencing what the heart is feeling. So your words are right. I know because I experienced it. Were you in there before your heart hurt? You just experienced something different. That's the difference. So a non-evolved, which is all of us, so don't get personal, a non-evolved human being spends all of their time lost, they fell from the garden, that's what that means, lost in body, emotions, mind. Thoughts, feelings, body, that's my world. That's who I am. Okay? I need to take care of me. Better take care of my body, better take care of my emotions, my heart, and better take care of my thoughts and my mind. Okay? Can you relate? That's your entire life. Why? Because you're lost in the object of consciousness instead of centered in the seat of consciousness. Now you see I'm using words that may sound familiar and people don't know what they mean. All right? The seat of consciousness is where you see from. It's where your consciousness exists and then looks down from there. It's like a light. A light can shine on something. Is the light the thing it's shining on? Light is falling on it. It's shaping right around it. It's bringing light to it, color to it, all kinds of things. Does the light become the object of light? No. Light is transcendent. That's the word. It's of a different plane. It's a different vibration level than the thing it's shining on. Your consciousness is called the light of consciousness because that's its nature. It is back here shining down on what it's aware of. But because consciousness is not just light, it's awareness of being, it identifies with what it is looking at. So if you don't know yet that you're identified with your body, if you don't know yet you're identified with your thoughts, if you don't know yet you're identified with your emotions, they are very important to you, aren't they? Okay. And I've taught you before, the outside world has absolutely nothing to do with you. You're in here, it's out there. Do you understand that? It's just what God created. It's out there. It's made of atoms. You're not made of atoms. Not your consciousness, and not your mind, and not even your emotion. Your body is, all right? But that outside world is what the light is shining on. It's just out there. But it doesn't seem like it has nothing to do with me. I get in big trouble when I say it has nothing to do with you. Your wife has nothing to do with you. Your husband has nothing to do with you. Your kids have nothing to do with you. Your job has nothing to do with you. Your car has nothing to do with you. Your house has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. Why? Because it's out there and you're in here. If you're sitting there watching a movie and it's getting you all upset, that movie has nothing to do with you. It's out there on the screen. Okay? The fact that it feels like it has something to do with you is because it's affecting your thoughts and emotions. If it did not affect your thoughts and emotions, you would not pay one single second to it. It'd be like white lines on the road. Have no interest to you. But because what's on that screen relates to your thoughts and emotions that you stored inside, then it has everything to do with you. Why? Because it can affect my emotions. 99.9999% of the people in the world cannot affect your emotions. But 5 or 6 really can. And 1 really can. If you happen to be dating them, they just run your emotions. Why? Because you associated yourself with that object out there. That's just as simple as that. If you had some family heirloom that meant a whole lot to you, I don't mean anything to anybody else, and somehow you lose it or it breaks or something, you're all messed up inside. Over a scarf? Then I'll buy another one. It's not the same. Yeah, it is. No, it's not. Look, it's made of the same material. It was made at the same time. Yeah, but it wasn't my mother. It was just before. You make it have something to do with you because you have projected your consciousness, your sense of self onto it, and now the outside affects the inside. And the outside isn't you, but because you related to it, you tied your consciousness to it, you tied your sense of identification to it, now you really do care what's happening outside. You really do care a lot, by the way. And you've noticed, because you're not stupid, that things can happen outside that make you feel better inside. Who hasn't noticed that yet? And things can happen outside that make you feel really, really bad inside, don't they? Right? And guess what? Because you're not evolved enough yet to what? Be seated in the seat of self. Not an insult to say you're not evolved enough yet. I didn't say you're an amoeba. You have a very evolved body. The highest species on the planet. It's very evolved. The body don't need more evolution. It's you in there, man. You still think you're your thoughts. You think you're your emotions. Well, you're not. Okay? But the net result is because the outside affects the inside, you in there are identified with the inside. Therefore, you devote your entire life, every moment, trying to manipulate the outside, people, places, and things, so that they behave and be present and act in a way that makes you feel good inside. And don't act in a way that makes you feel bad inside, right or wrong. You come with plans of what you want to happen. You have concepts and views and rights and wrongs and all kinds of things going on inside your head that say, I'll be okay when I get to corner office. I'll be okay when I find my soulmate. I'll be okay when I have my 3rd child and they're going to be 2 girls and 1 boy. I'll be okay when my car doesn't break down anymore. Your mind decides what has to happen outside for your mind to be okay. And your heart decides what has to happen outside for your heart to be okay. And those two are in cahoots, the mind and the heart. They get along. They talk to each other. All right? Is it not true? And you spend your whole life trying to make that happen. And trying to make sure it doesn't happen. Can I slow down and ask you, is it true or not? That's what you're doing with your life. If I say to you, what do you want? You might just say, that which makes me feel good. Well, don't get down to details. That which makes me feel good is what I want. What don't you want? That which makes you feel bad. Everyone's that way. We're lost. We're lost in identifying with our thoughts and emotions. And then I always go through, well, where did they come from? We talked about where form came from. Your thoughts and emotions aren't made out of that. They're made of atoms. How come your thoughts and emotions are the way they are? I want to go broad and deep. I don't want to get lost in this tonight because I've taught it so many times. It's very easy to know where your thoughts and emotions come from. It's very easy. You don't need a degree in psychology. I don't even know you. I never met you. I know where your thoughts and emotions come from. I know your thoughts. I know where yours. I know every single person's thoughts and emotions come from. They're experiences from the past. Man is the sum of his learned experiences. You didn't just make this stuff up. You didn't make up what you like and what you don't like. You've had experiences. You saw a movie, you read a book, had an experience, somebody dumped you, they don't like that person anymore. Go to a high school reunion 15, 20 years after you got out of high school, all right? And I want you to see what happens inside of you when you see certain people. 20 years later, you see those people, that same garbage is coming up. This is the one you like, that was going to hurt you. Whoa! Do you notice that's true? You store stuff inside of you. You have stored stuff inside of you from your past. I can call it suppression, repression. You're in there. Who's in there? You. You're in there. Woo! We're talking about you now? Yeah, I'm talking about you now. And you have power. You're it in there. Man, you're it. There's nobody else in there. Not mommy, not daddy, not husband, not wife, not kid. You in there. It's a single occupancy apartment in there, isn't it? And you're God descended. You don't know that, but you are. Okay? And so all the power is there. And so you have this stuff called will, which means you can focus your consciousness on one object and not another. And wherever you focus your consciousness, you send power down there. So if something happens, somebody says something to you that doesn't feel good when it comes in, you don't want to feel it. How you like that? Do you? Not one of you want to feel. You don't say, oh boy, come and get me. No, you don't. You say, no, I don't want to feel this. Get away from me. This is wrong. I can't handle this. And you push it away. Who does? You do. You have power. You push it away. That's what suppression is. That's what repression is. There's you in there pushing away the stuff you don't want. Have you ever done it? Have you ever pushed away a feeling or a thought that was bothering you? That's why your thoughts and emotions are the way they are. That's why what turns you on turns her off. That's what turns you on today, turns you off tomorrow. She comes up to you and says, oh my God, I love you so much. You're the most special person I've ever seen. Oh my God, I can't even handle seeing you. All right? And tomorrow says, I'm sorry, you're not the person I thought you were. It was him that I was meaning to talk to. You just went from to some of your learned experiences. You're the one who's experiencing it, but then you build this thing in here. You build a psyche. You build an ego. You build hopes, dreams, concepts, views, beliefs, preferences. Every single thing going on in there is all because you like when you feel good, you don't like when you feel bad, and you've stored this stuff inside of you that can make you feel bad. Why? Because it reminds you of what made you feel bad before. You can't watch certain movies on TV. They're about a mother dying, and when your mother died, you weren't there, and you wanted to be, and you feel guilty about it. No, I don't watch that movie. Turn it off. Turn it off. You stored that stuff inside of you because you couldn't handle the reality that's happening in front of you. So now, when things come in, they make you feel good or they make you feel bad. They're just things, but not to you. They're not. Okay? Because they hit your stuff in there. That's why the outside affects the inside. And that is the only reason the outside affects the inside. Oh my God, he said it. An enlightened being, the outside comes in and passes right through. Just right through, like everything else. And then they can deal with it. If it's passing right through and not hitting your stuff, you can look and see, is there something I can do to help? That's why a great being is always serving. They're not doing anything for themselves. There's no reason to. They're fine. They're fine inside because they don't have junk inside. So Mother Teresa was able to work with lepers. Everybody else, get away from me. Right? She didn't do it because she was supposed to. She loved doing it. She loved them. It was a complete experience to go there and help people. That's how all the great ones are. There's no judgment. I'm a nice Jewish yogi. If you take Christ's teachings, I don't need to talk to you anymore. His real teachings are every single thing I would say from now on. Ye without sin, throw the first stone. If you have a problem with your neighbor, work it out before you go to bed. Do not let this junk that you stored inside of yourself determine your life. And instead, serve, give. But now we give so we can be recognized. I gave the most. You hear me? I'll put my name on it. So it's like it's strong in there. Now I've laid the groundwork. You understand it? You're in there. And who's in there is really God. Who's in there is really pure consciousness, all right? But it has gotten lost in what consciousness manifested, which is form. So it's lost in there. And now that's lost in there, it suppresses things, holds things, and then life happens, and you get all weird, and you don't like that, and so you spend your life struggling to be okay inside. How's that? Who taught you that? Buddha? What did Buddha teach? All of life is suffering. I don't break my arm every day, do you? That's how he's saying. He's saying, baby, you're going to suffer all the time. You're afraid this person doesn't like you. You're afraid to do this. This will happen. You sneezed in public. Oh, my God. You burped. Oh, this is terrible. You hear me? You gained a pound. You lost a pound. You thought that you heard that somebody said that somebody didn't like you. How you doing? Who? What? Why? All of life is suffering. Right? Why? Because you have decided how you want it to be. cause of suffering is preference, desire. You decided, I will only be okay if this happens, and I will never be okay if that happens. Now you're going to suffer. So this is what it means to not be evolved enough. I'm not evolved enough to handle the planet Earth, nor are you. So when you come down here, you cause quite a commotion. You want to read about it? Look at the newspaper. Every single day, every single page. You create quite a commotion because I'm down here, I'm not okay. If stuff happens outside I don't like, I'm really not okay. Stuff happens outside that I do like, I'm doing better. Therefore, I am going to struggle and fight and manipulate and control or run away. Fight or flight. I'm going to do one or the other, aren't I? To try and protect myself inside from this terrible world outside that doesn't even exist. I'm glad we started there because I get to say that. It doesn't even exist. It's just a bunch of protons and neutrons popping out of a field of energy. Pretty funny. But look at that, does it? And it got real in there. It got real because I stored this whole psyche and I built it. And now I'm sucked into it and I identify with it 100%. That is not my psyche. That's me. I am my ego. You are not your ego. You are watching your ego. You can notice it, don't you? I don't like that. Why should you have to do that? It's not fair. Why is it raining on my birthday? Why does it have to rain on my birthday? It doesn't know it's your birthday. First, it's not even there. But second of all, it doesn't know it's your birthday, does it? But you say that, don't you? Why is it to rain on my birthday? God doesn't like me. I, me, mine, I, me, mine, I, me, mine, over and over and over again. Do you notice? That's your ego. Okay? So basically, that's what it means to not be evolved enough to be able to be liberated, to be able to handle life on earth. What does it mean to be liberated? To be seated so deep in the seat of self that all this stuff goes on, the dance of life goes on, and it doesn't touch you. You're transcendent. Well, why would you want to do that? Because the truth of the matter is your consciousness is ecstasy. That's its nature. In India they say Sat Chit Ananda, eternal conscious ecstasy. And they say that is the nature of the self. You get back to the self itself. It's not neutral. It's ecstatic. Also, that's the name of God, Satchidananda. So it's all the same. But this ecstatic consciousness is staring at garbage. And that's how it feels. If you stare at something ugly, you feel ugly. If you stare at something beautiful, you feel beautiful. That's why you go to art museums, right? Well, you're staring at something, boy, I called it weird the other day. That's a really good thing to call. Is it weird in there? Answer me. Is it weird in there? Is it hard living in there? You know it is, okay? That's because we're not evolved enough to handle the reality of life. Well, what's supposed to happen? It's like a dance. You descended down, you got lost. Can you find your way back? It's like a video game, but a really complicated one and a really difficult. A video game, you try to work through different levels, don't you? Okay? And you have different things to work with. Well, that's what you're doing in there. It's a serious video game, okay? And are you learning along the way how to work your way out, how to free yourself, how to liberate yourself? The default is to say, yes, I know how. Get what I want and avoid what I don't want. I like saying that. It's very funny. That's the way, right? The way to be okay. Get what I want and avoid what I don't want. How you doing? Anybody notice since they were a little tiny tot, they were trying to get what they want and avoid what they don't want? Mommy, mommy. It's a constant struggle to try to get what you want and avoid what you don't want. And you're still doing the exact same thing. Don't talk to me like that. How dare you talk to me like that? Oh, I like when you say that. Thank you, brought me flowers. Thank you. Get what you want and avoid what you don't want. You'll never be free that way. That's basically saying I'm not okay, but there are things that happen outside that can make me feel better inside because I don't feel good inside, and therefore I have to make those things happen so that I feel better and not worse. So you're working at the, I'm going to say, that's what I want to talk about. You're not working at the wrong level. You're never working at the wrong level. You're working at the level you need to work at. That's why you're working at that level. If you're first learning the piano, you start with scales. A pianist comes in and says, what are you doing? I'm playing the scales. Why? Because I can't play the stupid piano. So I start with the scales. It's the same thing here. You're working at whatever level you need to be working at in order to learn what you need to learn, or you wouldn't be working at that level. Do you understand that? If I can say God created it so that you... No. You decide what you need to work at because that's where you're caught. So if you have trouble drinking, you got addicted to drinking. You made a mistake. You drank too much, or you had problems, so you drank. You're addicted to drinking. Now I'm telling you, drinking has a lot to do with your life. Either drinking or not drinking is a major part of your life. And somebody else can't even understand. What are you having a problem with? I never drank. All right? You are working at the level you need to be working at. Somebody else moves out to the woods, loves being alone. In fact, maybe they have to be alone, because they don't get along with anybody. And they've always had trouble with relationships. Just leave me alone, okay? And somebody else says, how can you do that? Human beings are social animals, and they have to be with people. Then how can that person likes being alone? Don't you dare judge anybody else or think you understand anything. It's just crazy. Yogis went out to the mountains and lived in caves alone because they wanted to, because they went into these deep states. Well, no, they can't, because human beings are social animals. Talk for yourself. Everybody's different. Everybody has different stuff to go through. Everybody came down for different reasons to work through different stuff. And what you're working through is that which you forced yourself to work through. You say, I have relationship karma. What does that mean? Well, I'm not okay in here, and so I try to get a lot of relationships and try to make them be okay, and I just can't make it work, and it's always a mess. That means that's a level that you need to work at. Somebody else gets one relationship and it's fine, and they never think of anything else, and they're married for the rest of their life, and they're not better than you. It's not anything like that. It just means that that's not where they're working. They're working on somewhere else. They're working at some other thing. They're very religious, and they do it this way. Relationship is fine, but they judge everybody that belongs to a different religion. They have to have no one come into their community that's not the same. Well, then they got a problem too. That's what they're working at. Everybody's working at the level they need to be working at. Why? Not because God decided. You decided it, because that's the level you can't handle. A great master can handle every level, every single thing, no matter what happens. It comes in, it passes through. Told you, they asked Ramakrishna, enlightened being, does an enlightened being ever feel anger? He said yes. Why? Because anger is something that exists in the universe, isn't it? Anybody know anything about anger? It exists in the universe. So why would an enlightened being feel anger? Well, it exists. How does the enlightened being feel anger? It comes in and it passes right through. He said it was like riding on water. What difference does it make when you ride on water? Nobody can read it. There's no effect at all. It exists in the universe. It comes in and passes through. That's a high state. That's an evolved being. It's not what they do and what they don't do and what they look like and what they said. The fact that it can come in and pass through, and no one's touching it, no one's blocking it, and so therefore it leaves them in the ecstasy of self. How do they interact with the world? They bring that ecstasy down and serve and love everybody of every color and every creed and every race and every religion and every animal and every single thing that could ever be. They can't help themselves. There's a story of one of Ramakrishna's disciples. I point up there because that's Ramakrishna above the door. Very great being. And one of his disciples, Brahmananda, when the master left the body, one of the head disciples pulled the other monks together and said, okay, the master's gone and we should teach his teachings. So he set each one of them up that maybe a few nights a week, whatever, they would teach the people that came. All right? And they'd be in different rooms, and they would just teach. And they'll learn how to teach so they could spread the teachings. All right? And there was one, the story goes like this. He wasn't a very good teacher, okay? And so when the head monk or the head guy, brother, walked by, every night he was teaching, but there was nobody in the room. There's nobody in the room. Nobody came to the room, all right? And he said, brother, what are you doing? He said, I'm teaching. But there's nobody there. So what? That's not why I'm teaching. I'm teaching because it's my dharma, it's my obligation. Well, that guy was so high that later in life, when he was older, and he lived in his cottage, whatever it is, people would come to be with him because he was filled with Shakti, filled with energy. And he would be in meditation, and he'd come out into the area that's set up for satsang. And one night, he didn't come out. They were all there. They gathered, small group, but they were gathered together. And so somebody knocked on the door and went in, and he was sitting there meditating. And they said, brother, the disciples are here. You need to come out and teach. I'll never forget what he said. He said, no, I can't. I said, why? He said, I can't do it anymore. And I asked him, why can't you do it anymore? He says, I can't sit there and tell God what he should be doing. Wow. How'd you like to be there? Right? My whole talk tonight is about evolution. Now you understand how a soul is evolved. It doesn't mean that the soul is not perfect. The soul is perfect. I'm perfectly sitting in this chair, but I'm addicted to looking at that picture. So I think I have this amazing relationship with the picture. I don't. It's just like any other stupid picture, except that I'm fixated on it. As I work my way back to the seat of me, and I realize, oh, if I stop looking at the picture, I'm still here. I evolved. I evolved from being devolved, from projecting my consciousness onto something that's not myself and identifying with it. That's the essence of evolution. De-evolution is I've projected my consciousness onto an object of consciousness, and I'm so addicted to it that I've identified with it as me, and that's what I mean by me, and everything I do is for me, right? And it's all about the outside, because I don't know what the heck's going on in any way, shape, or form. So when you wake up, you woke a little bit, so you know you're in there, don't you? But just because you know you're in there, and you decide, I want to find myself back to myself, you wait till you see how hard that is, how difficult that is. It's way more difficult than a drug addict stopping drugs. Why? Why did they start drugs? Because they weren't okay. They made them feel better. So they drink, take the edge off. There's no edge, it's round. Okay, but you know what I'm talking about. The mind gets weird, the emotions get weird, and if I drink a little bit, or a lot of it, it's much better. Okay, I don't have to deal with anything, man, except the morning. And this is why those things happen, because they're not okay inside. So the fact that you're addicted to your ego, that's why you drink, that's why you do drugs. So that addiction, the addiction of outside, can't be close to the addiction you have inside. And it's very strong. And what's going to happen is you're going to wake up a little bit, like you all are, and you sit there and say, it doesn't seem to be working to try to make the outside world be the way I need it to be for me to be okay. Why? Because I'm not okay. I've been doing it my entire life. You can do something every minute of your entire life, and you don't question, gee, I guess it's not working. Why? Because I'm still doing it. You're doing it when you're 3, you're doing it when you're 10, you're doing it when you're 20, you're doing it when you're 80. Do you understand that? It's constant. It's habitual. And you don't realize you've been doing the same thing. The same thing. I want that toy. I want George. I want a nicer house. They're the same thing. That I'm not okay. What do I think I need in order to be okay? Oh, I don't like this. How do I not have to experience this? And eventually you wake up. You sit there and say, I've been doing this my whole life. And you guys are woke up enough to at least want to hear the teachings. And you said, is there another way? Yes, there's another way. Is it easy? No, it's not easy. But it leads to the highest state and the only state that's worth achieving because it's permanent. It's unconditional love, unconditional well-being, unconditional freedom. You don't get that from getting things the way you want or avoiding what you don't want. Even if you could do it, only that's for a moment, you know it. So how does one do that? By realizing I'm in here watching this mess. Well, how do I stop it? You don't. You don't stop it. Because if you go in there and touch it, it makes it worse. You're just going to create another ego. You make a spiritual ego. I'm not supposed to get upset. Oh my God, I got upset. I'm getting upset about not supposed to be getting upset. Okay, have fun. I'm supposed to love everybody. I have trouble loving her. What do? Oh my God, I'm freaking out. I feel so guilty. See? That's called spiritual ego. All you did was shift the identification of this messy ego that says, I want this, I want that, onto another nice little ego that says, I should be like this, I should be like that, and I shouldn't feel bad. I should be nice to people. It's just, you're still in there looking at it. They ain't got nothing to do with true evolution. True evolution is returning to the seat of self and not identifying with what it's looking at. To whatever degree you can sit in the seat of self and not identify with what it's looking at, you are evolving. If you sit there and say, I used to go to work and the boss would give me something to do and I really resented it if it wasn't what I wanted. But now I've meditated more, I've let go more and so on. I'm just grateful I have a job. If the boss gives me a job to do, I'm happy to do it. In other words, you can handle what happened. That is the measure of your evolution. Can you handle the reality that's unfolding in front of you? That is the measure of spiritual evolution, not the clothes you wear or how you act or what you say, whether you ever swear or whatever. Can you handle the moment that's unfolding in front of you? Or do you have to manipulate it and do something about it because I can't handle it? I don't like it. I don't want it to be happening. It's not fair. I can't handle it. And all of a sudden you get to a point where you're matured enough, evolved enough, been through enough to where you can handle it. What does that mean? It is unfolding in front of me. Can you handle things you don't like? Most people know. I can't handle what I don't like. I have to manipulate it and change it and fight it and struggle with it because I can't handle it. What if you can handle what you don't like? That, to most people, that's a non sequitur. How do I handle what I don't like? Because you're comfortable feeling the energy that's uncomfortable. I'll say it again. You in there, the self, the consciousness, are comfortable experiencing energy that is uncomfortable. Can there be uncomfortable energy? I think you know there can. Can you be comfortable experiencing the uncomfortable energy? And it's a state that you reach where you can relax and not resist and realize, yes, there's uncomfortable. Here, go walk in the woods and see a snake. Are you okay with that? No, there are snakes. Yes, there are snakes. Of course there are snakes. The question is not, are there snakes? The question is, can you handle that there are snakes? No, then you can't walk in the woods. And you can't date people that like to walk in the woods. You just limited your life because you can't handle reality. Do I have to pick up the snake? No, you don't have to pick up the stupid snake. But you have to handle the reality that there's such things as snakes. Otherwise, it will limit your life, won't it? That's true of everything. Can you handle other people's behavior? No, they're supposed to be the way I want them to be. They are not, and they won't be. When was the last time that someone was exactly the way you wanted to be all the time that you wanted to be like that? Never. Okay? It's like it's not supposed to be the way you want. You're supposed to be able to handle the way it is. Does that mean I don't do anything about it? I'm just a doormat? No, it doesn't mean that. It means you handle what's happening and then you deal with it. But you don't deal with it because you can't handle it. If my motive for dealing with it is I can't handle it, so I have to change it because I can't handle it, you're going to make a mess and you won't evolve. Because you said, no, I don't want to evolve. I want to not feel this. I want this not to happen. Okay? And you push it away. So how do you evolve? By learning to handle things. Then deal with them. Nobody said you don't deal with them. People misunderstand the teaching of surrender. You surrender the reality of what happened by letting go inside. And just being, okay, yes, all things happen in the world, and that happened in front of me. Lots of other things happen that weren't in front of me, right or wrong. How many things are happening right now that are not in front of you? All of them. You handle those quite well, don't you? But you can't handle what's in front of you. It's pretty funny. And so you get to the point where you say, the purpose of my life is handling things. The purpose of my life is not getting things the way I want so I can handle them. The purpose of my life is evolving so that I can let things enter my consciousness and be okay with them. Doesn't mean I like them or don't like them, but I'm okay with reality. Now what? Now come back with your consciousness and see if there's anything you should be doing to help the situation. Not if anything you can be doing to make you feel better. That's what selfless service is. If you don't have a personal self, that's selfless. Okay? You're devoid of the personal self. You won't ever get there completely. As they say, there's always a little bit left. But you're devoid of the personal self. I like this. I don't like this. I don't want this. I can't handle this. There, that's the personal self. Now what? All there is Shakti. All there is the self. The Atman, the clear consciousness. And it looks down into creation. It has no motive. It has no fear. It has no desire. Why? Because it's whole, it's Satchidananda, it's filled with ecstasy. And it looks down into creation, and what it will see is, what can I do to serve? That's all it will ever see. It doesn't have to think about it, because it's not thinking about itself, because it doesn't need to. Because it's whole, it's complete, it's realized. Now when it looks down there, all it sees is, how can I help? What can I do to serve? It doesn't think that, it just does it. It's just very natural. And that's where Christ was, that's where Buddha was, where all the great masters are. That's evolution. Evolution is going from the reactive, unable to handle reality, to being open enough, clear enough, mature enough, evolved enough, to where life comes in and it passes through. God experiences God. That's what's happening. God experiences God. That's what's happening. There's lines in the Gita. The Gita is very, very deep. There's a line where Arjuna, who is Krishna's spiritual son, if you will, a human, is talking to God, and he asks God, how will I know an enlightened being? That's a nice question. How will I know an enlightened being when I see them? Sits he, walks he, talks at the end of the man? Or does he levitate? Is he like shining like the sun? I'll know him then, right? So that's a really neat question, isn't it? To ask for a very deep book. The Gita was written by the greatest masters. And he said, how will I know enlightened being when I meet him? And Krishna says to him, Arjuna, you won't know him like that. He sits, he talks like any other man. If you would know him, he lets goodness come when it will, and when it will depart. He lets darkness come when it will, and it will depart. He stands as a sojourner, a stranger, in the midst of the qualities of nature, of all these different vibrations of nature, the qualities of nature. He said, just as all the rivers in the land pour into the ocean, but the ocean doesn't overflow its bounds. So the world, is what I want to get to, the world of sense pours into the yogi and leaves him as it found him, serene, content, at peace. Equanimity is yoga. That's an evolved being. All of it comes in as is, merges into the self. Creation merges back into creation. That's enlightenment. They're great beings that are in that state. And then such a being is a blessing on this earth, to say the least. You are that. Now, getting there is a whole other story. It is the meaning of your life. It's not the meaning of your next 5 minutes. It's not the meaning of your next meditation. It's not the meaning of your next relationship. Well, how do I know if I need to go through something or if I should let it go? You do your best. Here, I'll give you the final technique teaching in 30 seconds. Okay? You do your best at all times to remain seated in the seat of self and to raise the energy that's coming in. Ultimately, it goes up. It all comes in and raises up. But it's blocked. It's blocked, so it doesn't go up. Instead, it comes out as fear or anger or need or lust or greed. It hits all the garbage in there, okay? And so it gets really confusing in there, doesn't it? It gets hot it gets really interesting, okay? And so what you do is do your best. You do your best to be conscious, breathe, and raise it up. But even if you do your best, you're going to find out that later you look back and say, uh-oh, I fell. I got involved. I got caught. My mind took over. My heart took over. Okay? The stuff is strong. It's very strong. Don't kid yourself. And that's not a problem. It's just the reality. And the whole purpose of your life is to go through these situations and bounce off the walls and do this and do that. Well, how do I know what I should let go of or go through? If you can let it go, let it go. If you can't let it go, it's going to take you. To me, there's no choices. You do your best to look up and let go, and it's not going to happen sometimes. And you notice you go down and then you come back up. What happened? Right, with your head spinning. That's wonderful. That means you had a growth experience. But that's not how you take it. You get all weird, right? But the point is, that's what it means you're growing. If you go through that, eventually you go through enough things where somebody behaves in a way you don't like, or this happens, or you get fired, or something happens, and eventually, you go to another job and you're doing it, and then you realize, okay, people get fired, It's like the next thing you know, you get fired, and you say, okay, I get to look for another job. And you're okay with it. You're okay with it. Or you have a relationship, it's not going the way you want it to go. And normally you freak and you do this and you do that. And that sometimes people can get to the point where they say, fine, it's a relationship. People go through what they need to go through. And then you matured. You matured through it enough to handle the situation. But that's big time stuff. You understand that? I talk about start with the little stuff. Start with the weather. Start with the car in front of you. Handle that first. Learn to handle the little stuff. And then you'll learn how to handle things. And then it'll become bigger and bigger. And the next thing you know, you get to a point where you can handle things you never thought you could ever handle. And you don't even think about it. You don't even say, oh, look, I handled it. You don't even know it was in it. It just passed right through. Okay? The question is, consciously, there's conscious action and there's reaction. That's where I'm stopping. Conscious action is where you're conscious and you're aware of what you're doing. Reaction is when it just happens by itself. You don't have a choice. That somebody offered you a drink and you had all your little chips, and all of a sudden the smell and the next thing you know, you're drinking. It wasn't your intention. It wasn't your conscious action. It was a reaction. Okay? You want as much as possible for it to be conscious action, not reaction. Because reaction just means you aren't learned enough, you're not evolved enough, so you got to get thrown around the waves and go through different stuff, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right, we had a very big talk. We started off with pure God expressing himself to experiencing himself, and this is the dance to see if we can find our way back to God. It's a video game. All right, Jagarath.